I'm good right now, a little bit.
This story begins when I was a youngster, 11, 12 years old, out of Guadalupe Street down the deep west side where San Antonio had, the city limits were very, very close. San Antonio was young. And there was a community center about a block away from my house where I was born and raised. And that's where I started boxing with a youngster that got killed in a fist fight. And then he didn't get killed in a fist fight. He got in a fist fight, and then later on in La Vita, downtown, a dance hall, he got shot and got killed. Well, his father used to be a security officer in the neighborhood. He was what we might call a commissioned officer. Had a gun and took care of other little businesses around our neighborhood, the home, the house. And Ramiro Gonzalez was his son. Well, he used to be what you would call a leader. He was older, much older than we were. I imagine he was in his 20s. He was a leader of this community center. And during the winter, my mother would send me there because they would give us caldivar oil and the orange juice, like vitamins and things like that. And my mom, to keep me out of the streets, would make me go there. That's the beginning. I started boxing there, and the local other clubs in San Antonio, like the Guadalupe Community Center, the Western Community Centers. We used to compete once a month.
And what about your uncle? Your uncle?
Well, also my father's brother, my uncle, Amador, he was, I would say that's another story because when my grandfather, according to what my uncle tells me as an information, when he came to Texas, to San Antonio from Mexico, he was a member of the revolution. And according to my uncle, my uncle and I used to work together at Kelly Air Force Base. Oh, Mr. Torres, this is my son, Paulie.
This is my youngest.
This is my grandson, Steven.
Isaac Torres, and this is my grandchild. Yes, his name.
Okay.
Yes, Pablo
There's one of your mother's illegitimate children.
Yeah, I come from a Pekingese family.
Oh, is that
No, I don't. I'm getting mad. I've lived with him 54 years. Married.
Get a table, Steven.
And through the years, now I was 18 and he was 21.
He was 21. He just come out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah. And but through the years I was real quiet and I wouldn't talk back to him, and he was the boss, and it's always been. But now through the years, he's still the boss. He's still the boss. But what I mean is that I've gotten to be more confident, and I kind of like.
Just like I tell my kids, when you come to my house, just pour nails to the wall.
Thank you, baby.
And they ask, what's that for, Dad? It's when you hang your balls because when they mine,
So when you
Anyway,
started, were there pro fighters in the area?
There were a lot of pro fighters in San Antonio. Some of them I don't remember, but the ones I remember were We used to hear the fights on the radio with my dad and my uncle from New York, like Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson. And it created some interest in me, okay? Well, first of all, like I told you before, we started boxing at the community center. But I had an advantage because my uncle, Amador, like I told you before, when my grandfather came in from Mexico from the revolution was about ready to Pancho Villa got caught right after that and was killed. When the revolution was almost over, he started to disperse.
Somebody.
Hey, Cale, ¿qué pasó, hombre? How you doing, man? ¿Cómo estás? Haciendo la lucha todavía. Mira nomás qué gordito te pusiste. Eso. Oh, you were at the gym right now?
Well, it's at 11.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. But you joined the... Come on, let me get some coffee for you.
Okay, son.
He wants to do... he's doing some photographs and...
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's the one with
Yeah,
the movie.
I felt that. There's a lot of breaks in this story, okay? Interruptions and whatever, but you can...
Probably about 5:36.
When you're at night, you can come on, you can join me.
You are going, right, Papa?
Last night, the reason I'm a little fucked up is because yesterday I had my shots, you know, they shoot me with steroid shots. I have a pinched nerve in my back, and my legs are shot, man. You know, I can't work the ring anymore, like I can't climb the damn steps. So I'm passing on the torch to my son. He's the man in the gym now. Going to, hey, I had completely forgotten about this guy, man. But it's all right. The more the merrier, no. Anyway, going back to this thing. Let me. Can we hook up the tables together, honey?
Yes.
I'm not that big. I can squeeze in.
All right, come on. Put up a chair up in there.
I think I'm the first.
Okay. The gentleman is in college.
Yes.
No, honey, university. He's in a university.
I know. He's in university. College.
Isaac Torres. Torres Fidel Castillo.
Mr. Castillo is... You are coming from where?
Coming from as far as...
Where is where you live? University.
Oh, Ohio.
Ohio? Ohio, yeah.
Toledo.
Toledo, Ohio. 77 miles from Detroit. You know why I know that? No, that's my girlfriend. I think we're going to get married.
Girlfriend for a long time.
Girlfriend for a long time.
How you doing? Fighters or what?
Oh, this gentleman here is doing for school. It's a school project that he's doing a little story on
boxing or
boxing. And he selected the Ayala family because he's heard about this. So here I'm trying to help everybody. Maybe when you guys get it big, you know, you'll remember me. I'll be gone and dead.
You ain't going nowhere. You'll be here for a long time.
Okay.
Anyway, I was telling Mr. Torres, he was asking me how I am. Whatever you do, don't say anything.
Oh, he started. Here's something else.
Come with the story that you did last night. Anyway, he's doing a little... Can you explain to him what you're doing?
Well,
Mr. Castillo.
it's historical fiction. So the story is fiction, but it's based on historical facts. Basically, what I'm trying to do is capture Texas boxing history. And the characters in the story are in... Oh, yes. The characters in my story are in this constant debate over who's the greatest boxer to ever come out of Texas. It's subjective. You know, everybody's going to have their own opinion, but it's something to keep the story moving. In that, my character in the story, or the voice of the story, comes across Tony Ayala Jr. And wants to becomes fascinated with the Ayala family and just the San Antonio boxing history. So the story is really about a few things. It's about, yes, boxing history in Texas, who's the greatest boxer to come out of Texas, but it's also about what it is to be a fighter. And
it's also a story about a dysfunctional family.
Well, I'm here to help.
Should I lay down so I can hear it?
It's not dysfunctional. I don't think it's dysfunctional. I think it's just the labeling of the West Side.
Okay. Well, now, Mr. Garcia, what do you tell Mr. Torres what your project?
Oh, Father to Son Fight Night? Well, they're being part of the virtualisms. They being lost because of the high rate of single parenthood. A lot of kids have no even father.
You're based really in San Marcos, right?
Right, San Marcos, Texas.
that's where I live.
Oh, the University of Texas.
I got two guys from San Marcos, maybe all. Neither one of you is gay, right?
Huh?
Neither one of you is gay.
Oh, stop.
All right, wait a moment.
Hey, I sort of like it over here.
Castillo, look, one of the things that you don't, what is it? Say, don't tell, no say, don't say, no tell.
Military thing.
Yeah. What is it?
Don't ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell.
But that's sad because, that's even part of the dysfunction of this American society.
Well,
We're actually, our government is actually, pushing the way. Well, got gays.
did you find out about this shit? Just came out that Obama, the president, is gay.
Oh, man. Do you want me to get you my cowboy jokes? I got a lot of cowboy jokes right now.
You're gonna partner.
Anyway, this is he's trying to get a fundraiser in San Marcos or around here, whatever.
This one now is the
He
regular.
wants to put some kind of a show with fathers and sons, people that have worked before. He's the one that's creating this thing and now helping. Whatever. Same thing with you, doing the story. Why not,
Ayala.
Anyway,
Well, it was Torres before I met him. No relation. My daddy died too young.
so what we're doing here, and since you're here to get some information, you're here for storyboard. Why not throw all the ingredients in the soup pot?
Put it together, yeah.
Okay, now we were going back with Mr. Torres when I started when I was about 11 years old in the community center. But my mother didn't want me to box. My mother, in the old days, we had wood stove, kerosene lamps. Times were hard. So what we had, I was not very bright in school until I went to
Never went to Baylor. No.
well, I can't finish my story. You keep interrupting.
I didn't know.
We kid sometimes that I went to Baylor.
Never went to Baylor.
Look,
Story.
in Baylor. There's a mural up there.
You never
Well, they
went
had
to
my-
Baylor. You never went to Baylor.
Football quarterback. They used to call me the laser.
Flunked 7th grade twice and he flunked 5th grade once.
He's going to a school now that I used to go. So the other day he was asking me, Grandpa, when here you were 14? And he said, I'm only 11, how come I'm here in this school? I said, well, I don't know. You were telling me that. Then he said, well, you flunked through, which I did, flunked 3 times. I wasn't the brightest kid around. I was just a good-looking guy that could have been a movie star. Anyway, to make a long story short, going back to the 70s, this is where it all began. I went in the Marine Corps, and
Now it's my turn.
I started boxing there, not as what they call special service, We just did it just for stay in shape. But we used to go to headquarters and spar with the main guys. When I come out of the Corps, I started to see if I could come back again, but then I met my wife, and time didn't allow me to try and do anything, so we got married and had kids. But then, when my kids come of age and going to school, I remember how school was, elementary school, how abusive kids can be. Because I was also like that with a bunch of guys. And there was some... no se mira muy bien. There were some, I remember very distinctly about one incident that there were three girls that we used to call the three glamours. They were girls that for whatever reason, one was cross-eyed, the other was quite ugly. We used to call her Moose Face, and the other was, she was a boy with long hair, but she was flat-chested. And we were really abusive. And I remember one time one of the girls were in school, we were all in class, and she must have ate something that was not right, and she needed to fart, and the teacher wouldn't excuse her. So we were all there, me and a bunch of guys, Sammy, Trevino, Luis Carrasco, Johnny Lowry, all these guys, we used to. By the way, Johnny Lowry was a half-breed, half Mexican, half white boy. But we used to joke around, we used to play around a lot. So this girl, evidently she wanted to fart, but she was probably trying to hold it, and she went, So we all took a joke at it, But there was this guy, Andres Cruz, one of our guys, that was just leaning on her and made her cry. So I said, hey man, that's enough. Stop that shit, So then he started picking on me and said, hey Tony, you know what? Is that your girlfriend? That's why you look at her. I said, no, motherfucker, she's my girlfriend. And enough is enough. So he was bigger than I was, but he thought he was king. But like go back again, I used to train, and my uncle, which I was talking about, when my grandfather came from Mexico, the revolution was almost at an end, and my uncle was telling me that my grandfather Emilio, when he came to San Antonio, he had talegas. Talegas means those money bags of gold. I don't know how true that was, but nevertheless, he bought a lot of properties. The house that I was born in, he bought each one of his kids land and houses. Two of his daughters he gave some money to, and they went back to Mexico after the revolution, which I know I have cousins of it that I don't even know. And my uncle used to be a boxing fanatic also. He was in the era of Rodolfo Valentino and all that. But my dad used to tell me that he was a wacko. Why? Because he didn't marry. My uncle didn't marry until he was about 40-some years old. And he had a little store, convenience store in a garage. He used to fix them 24 Chevys and little coupes, Model 8. And he used to have a gasoline pump. When they used to come and I used to go out there, he would take me over to him. And I used to, with a handle, pump gas into that reservoir up there. But he also had a boxing ring in the back of the garage. That's where we all used to train. And he would have little boxing matches. This is where I got my interest in boxing. When my kids were young, and I knew that they were going to be running to some tough kids in school, I said, well, shit, I better prepare for this kind. I had this house over there on 214 St. Louis. It was also a deteriorated area, but
No, not yet.
huh?
There were 3 and 4 when you
No,
moved.
I didn't say that. I said when we moved up there and we had our kids,
Yeah.
okay, with our kids, I was preparing for school. The school, elementary school, was about 2 blocks around there. But being that it was the poverty areas, I had a lot of tough kids, abusive kids like the way I was. So I said, I'm going to prepare these kids to learn how to fight, to defend themselves. But I didn't realize I was going to make some monsters out of it. And I also taught them discipline, not to be fighting. That they're teaching them how to box would be for self-defense. But kids, my mistake also, I had a couple of teachers on my oldest son, Mike, and my second boy, Sammy, that I was proud like anybody else. And I had some t-shirts embroidered Fighting Ayala Brothers. What I did was create a lot of kids that want to try them out. And they used to get a lot of fights. But then as they were coming up, I built a little gym in the back of my house. But it was in the open air, it had no roof or nothing. So I was at the mercy of the weather. And then I moved, I went and started training them kids into the House of Neighborhood Service. It's a community center over there on Salinas Street. And I started training fighters there. And we did real good. So good that we used to go to all the small cities in Texas. Corpus Christi, Robstown, Dallas, Texas, to the south, McAllen, Far. We used to go to north, Austin, and Beaumont, Houston. We had a circuit of places where we used to go and compete. And that's how it started. That's how we got there. The thing that you were talking about, that outstanding, it stands out, is my son Mike. When he was, I didn't have no money to send him to the Junior Olympics. JOs are from, what 14 to 15?
JOs is
14 to 16 now.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah. Now, it used to be that 15 was a cutoff. After 15 years old, you became a regular senior player. Well, I didn't have no money to send my...
They don't have 15. 15 is cut off.
Is 15's cut off?
15 cut off. 16, depending on...
But you can't go into the Golden Glove
16 people, yes, you can.
unless you get your...
If it's August the 1st. If you turn 17 by August the 1st of the year before.
Well, see, the one thing that I need, Mr. Torres, to know is that if you have some...
Yeah, they got regulations now.
If you have a plate of
Like in other words,
pancakes,
this guy is in he'll fight a Golden Glove of that year when he's 16. He can fight a Golden Glove as long as it's before August the 1st.
if you have a short stick of pancakes and you pour the whole bottle of syrup, you're going to ruin it. Right now, the amateur system is one of the reasons that the United States cannot produce great fighters like in the old days. In the old days, the last great Olympic squad was 1976. Okay. After that, you got the trouble right now is you got a lot of officials that have never laced on a glove. They watch a couple of fights on TV and they want to become officials, and they do. A lot of trainers don't. All you pay is $75 and you become a licensed certified trainer. You might not know a left hook from third base.
Certified coach.
Yes, well, coach, trainer.
And there's right now there's a guy that a good friend of mine. I know he's a coach. He's a Poncho Cavazos. He's an apprentice. He's an electrician, but he wants in the evenings he's
He's a volunteer coach.
He's a coach. He loves boxing. He loves boxing. My brother coming up. He got a factory with boxing. And he started teaching fighters and stuff. And he reads up on books and stuff and everything. And one time he was teaching some guys about throwing the right uppercut certain ways. I said, hey, that's the wrong. Nah, man. I know boxing. I've been in it. I said, hey, man. And I went in that ring. You never fought. You never even released a grab. How can you say you know something you never done before? I think the mechanic. His business. You never know how to.
Excuse me. There's an old saying that says, you can be a doctor and you can read 400 books on surgery, but you don't become a surgeon until you open somebody. Okay? To correct. This is when you become a surgeon. You can read books up the ass, but you don't know. If you don't know what it feels like.
You gotta practice.
But one time he
So he got to say, hey man, he said, hey, let's go to the squad, man. I want to fight out. Dude, I don't want to not have a space up. Let's do it. Yeah, right here, we made up.
I was
Nah,
there.
man. Don't do it. Let's be cool about it. Then this guy got into it with another. The time went on. The guy left from our gym. He went to another gym. He split that same shit to another dude. Another dude that knows how to fight. You see, his son's fighting. He fought with Mike Lears. He boxed too. He put that same shit. What he did with
knocked him out in about
they
half a minute.
went on, they put it on YouTube.
YouTube, it's on YouTube.
This guy got knocked out, man. Got whacked. They embarrassed him, man. They embarrassed him on YouTube. I don't know if he still trains, but he's like kind of
Okay, now let me intervene a little bit. Now, when he came to us to wanting to be help out with the gym and all that, we let him in. Maybe he can learn. But he took a kid from our gym and became too close to him enough to where the boy he's very loyal to him. He'd take him fishing, do this and do that. And but the kid has been spinning his wheels. He doesn't improve. He's been fighting for years, but he can't do anything. Maybe the kid doesn't have the capacity, or maybe, and there's an old saying in boxing, a bad trainer can ruin a good fighter.
No, mommy.
Okay? And this, I think, is what's happening to us, to him.
Do you want more coffee?
Here's a guy that's been training for a while, but he's never been in the depth of what boxing is. So he trains this guy whichever way he wants now. And I told him, I said, to be honest with you, no, he doesn't. I told him one time, I said, you know what, Uriel, who's a kid that he trains, Uriel Garcia, says he's never improved, he's never done anything. And the kid probably, we try to get the kid to come back to us, but his father and the coach are real close, the kid's father. So evidently they loyalty to them, but the kid hasn't done anything. One of the things that we might say, well, maybe the kid doesn't have talent. We don't know. It's a toss-up. It's a coin in the air. But I know that this guy says, well, I've been training fighters for 15 years. And I asked him, what have you produced in 15 years? Give me some kid that you have trained that has excelled, gone on to win state titles, even if he doesn't win nationals. Give me one thing. And it's an old saying in boxing. It's not what you put into the funnel that counts. It's what comes out of the funnel. Mr. Pepe Hernandez at Alacran Torres, Canelo Urbina, years ago, told me once, a good shoemaker doesn't only make one good pair of shoes. And I'm going to give you all an example of what I'm talking about. Search you real well. When Tony was coming up, we signed him up. He signed a promotion contract with Main Events. And we were training. He was training for his first fight in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Marvin Hagler. Have you heard of Marvin Hagler? Marvin Hagler is one of the greatest middleweights that come out of boxing. he was training up there also. And Goody Petronelli, the trainer, and his brother, Pat Petronelli, had a boxing club in Massachusetts. Well, Marvin Hagler is originally from New Jersey, but being that there was too much crime in that area, she moved to Massachusetts. Marvin Hagler was 14 or 15 years old when he walked into this club, and they started training. He became a good amateur and eventually middleweight champion of the world. Mr. Petronelli was very knowledgeable in the fight game. I think he and his brother fought the Golden Gloves or whatever. But before they had Marvin Hagler, they have never produced anybody. Marvin Hagler retired, and they still haven't produced anybody. So what do we have here? Put the cards on the table. Why didn't they succeed after Marvin Hagler? And it goes back to what Mr. Pepper told me. A good shoemaker doesn't only make one good pair of shoes. In a case like this, the fighter made the trainer look good. He captured so many titles, he was a great fighter. But after he retired, the two trainers, Petronelli brothers, never produced anything. So the big question is, why? There are some trainers right now, and I would say that about 70% of the trainers throughout the country are trainers that either watch television or read out of a book or something. Have never produced anything. In Tony's case, my son, when I told you he was a freak of nature, I'm also covering my oldest son, Mike. If you recall that I was telling you that Mike, I didn't have any mind to take him to the Junior Olympics. So he wanted to fight. Dad, come on, I want to fight, Dad. I said, you can't fight. You're only 15 years old. He just turned 15 in January. The Golden Gloves were going to be in February. I said, you just turned 15 2 weeks ago. Dad, I want to fight, man. Fix it some way. So his father, coming from the barrios, that if you don't have anything, you provide some way or another. My mother used to work at a hospital here in town. Okay, and I asked her one day, Mom, I need a blank birth certificate. She says, no, cabrón, I don't want you to. You have a criminal mind. I know what you want to do. You're not getting shit from me. No. You stay honest. I said, shit. But my mother, being that she was my mother, she said, here, he gave me 2 days later, gave me a blank birth certificate. So what did I do? I took ink pad, and made the patitas and fixed it up to where he was going to be 16, that he was 16 already. So I entered him in the Golden Gloves here. He won everything locally. He advanced to the state championship in Fort Worth. When we got to Fort Worth, he went with the San Antonio team. I had to drive my own thing. I wasn't allowed to. He belonged to the San Antonio team. The region. And but I went over there just to work with him also. While I was over there, I ran into a friend of mine that had a boxing club in Corpus Christi, Mr. Emilio Sanchez. Hey, Tony, how you doing? All that, doing good. Who did you bring? Because I brought my son, Mike. He started thinking, he walked away. I remember everything. He walked away. But he came back a few minutes later. He said, Tony, Mike can't fight here. He says he's younger than Ernie Gallegos, a fighter he used to have. They used to fight Mike. And Ernie Gallegos was older than my son Mike, but not old enough to get into the Golden Gloves. So he says, if he's younger than Ernie, why? I said, hey man, keep it to yourself. I entered him here, but I fixed the birthday. Well, he had the defending champion. Luis Valadez was the kid's name. They used to call him Blue because he had a blue eye. And anyway, they both kept winning. And when they both won the semifinals, they were going to meet in the finals the next day. Well, the next morning, the day of the finals, I get a call from George Kellum, who is the president and director of the Texas Road. He's got the franchise of Texas Road. So I got, he called the hotel left me a message. You have to go see Mr. George Kellum, Star Telegram. I drove up there to see what he wanted. He said, sit down, Mr. Ayala, I need to talk to you. An allegation being made charging you that with fraud. I like chingada. What do you mean? He said, the entry that you have, which in this case is your son, is not the age to compete in the Golden Glove, state Golden Glove. And I said, oh shit, as well. Yeah, you're right. Yes, I explained to him the situation that my son wanted to fight. Lack of money forced me to do some things that were illegal. I said, but you know, since it's out already, he says, who is my accuser? He says, well, I don't know if you know him, he's in the other room. He had to sign an affidavit charging you with this. I says, well, can I see him? So he comes in there and Emilio Sanchez, right away before I said anything, you know you were wrong. You know you shouldn't have put Mike in there. He was not old enough. I said, you're a piece of shit, man. I said, you know what? You're a fucking wimp. Can't keep your mouth shut. And George Kellum says, excuse me. I said, do you know each other? Yeah, he says, and the way he knows that my son's not old enough, because my son used to kick the shit out of his fight in Corpus Christi, and Ernie Gallegos is not old enough to compete, so this is why we have this problem. Oh, he says, and Mr. Callum tells Sanchez, says, did you know that from the very beginning that he was not of age? He says, yeah, first day I noticed that he shouldn't have been here. He says, why didn't you bring this up? Well, you know, or is it because he's going to fight your fighter tonight? And he says, yeah, well, no, my guy will kick shit out of him anyway. That's what his answer. And I says, that'll be the day. And then Mr. Callum says, well, this kind of interruptions only ruin the tournament. There's only one way he can continue. He said, you're going to have to, I have to get a lawyer to relieve you of a juvenile. In other words, if there's a 14 or 15-year-old that commits a crime or anything, the law or the parent can sign an affidavit. They relieve him of being a juvenile and an adult.
Yes.
So I said, are you willing to sign an affidavit? And I said, hell yeah, as long as he stays in the tournament. So Emilio Sanchez, no, you can't do that. He says, oh yes, I can. So he called the secretary. Secretary, about an hour later, came with a lawyer, typed up an affidavit. I signed it. And he said, well, your son is going to have to continue. He said, you know, anything that happens, you know, you're responsible. And I said, oh, fuck it, let's go. The same night, Mike knocked this fight. I cannot stop him. And he was pissed. And we didn't talk until I started to promote with Luis Valdez in Corpus Christi. And he had a fighter that we used on a comeback, Lengüita, Robert Elizondo. That was the only time in years that we spoke to each other. But Mike continued. He won the state. He beat the state champion, which was Valadez, and Bruce Curry's brother. He continued on and won the Nationals. In the Nationals, he beat the defending national champion, Willie Chapman, who used to fight for the Crunk team with Emmanuel Stewart. You know who Emmanuel Stewart is, right?
Who?
Emmanuel Stewart?
Of course, yes.
Okay, you know who Emmanuel Stewart is. He's had the famous Crunk team. Well, right before the Nationals, there was a newsletter that circulated throughout the amateur system that had the story how I had...
Were you the commentator for tonight's fight?
Yeah, he'd be tonight's fight.
Yeah. Commentator?
But anyway, it came out in the amateur newsletter that Tony Ayala Sr. had cheated and did this, but They went on to explain how he was going to continue the tournament by giving up his rights as a juvenile. So when we were waiting, they were not in the same bracket. Willie Chapman, who was 24 years old then, and they were in a different bracket. So when in Fort Worth, they call out the names and you have a number. You have two chairs adjacent to each other. You have both opponents. I mean, in the national, that was in Boston area, in Boston, Massachusetts. That's right. But they still have the same system. Poland got it. You have two tables adjacent to each other, and you have a number of the bomb. And he says, "You're Mr. Ayala?" I said, "Yeah." "My name is Emmanuel." I said, "Oh, everybody knows who you are." So we started conversation. He said, "Well, they're not going to meet tonight, but if your son continues on the tournament, he'll probably meet Willie Chapman in the semifinals. And we just don't want to get the boy hurt." And I says, "Emmanuel, Mr. Stewart," I said, I have a lot of respect for you, but I didn't bring my son all the way down here so I could be intimidated. If he's going to lose, let him lose in the ring." Mike fought him. Stopped him in the third round. Oh shit! What happened? Then in the finals, he met this guy Derek Holmes, who had won a gold medal in the Pan American Games. He was from let's see, Washington D.C. And I said, "Well, congratulations." I said, "But tomorrow he's got a man." I was worried about Chapman fighting this guy. This guy's real good. Trained by Pepe Hall. I said, "Well, once again," I said, "it all depends which hand is raised in the ring tomorrow night." He went and he didn't stop him, but he gave 2 standing eights. He won the Nationals at the age of 15. Something that hasn't been done. Then, in Tony's case, when he was 13 years old, he won the Nationals in the JOs. He won regionals, won the state, and won the Nationals as a 13-year-old. And then he competed again, 14-year-old, won it again. When he was 14 years old, I was getting ready to take him to Tucson, Arizona for the Junior Olympics. No, it wasn't in Arizona. It was in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He was 14 years old. And I couldn't get him no fights. Because everybody, "No, I don't fight him. We don't want to fight him." So I asked out of Portland, Oregon, Mr. Jerry Dusenberry. He used to be the president of the JO Olympic Committee. He still lives there. Okay. I might have his number somewhere. And I wrote a letter to him and explained to him the problem that I had by getting competition for Tony. And I asked permission if I could fight Tony with seniors, 16 and up. And he says, "Well, when you compete in the seniors, there's no age limit. You can be 32 years old." I said, "We want a 13-year-old to be competing at 32-year-old. And I asked, "Why not?" There was a telephone conversation. He said, "Because it's not right." But and this one, he asked me to write a letter, submit it to him, and he would pass it on in Colorado Springs if they would allow it. So they came back favorable. I said, "Okay, you can fight Tony with senior fighters, but we need to assign a special referee to oversee that he doesn't get hurt. And you can only fight him on one-night events. You cannot enter any tournaments. He cannot enter international fights, and he has to have a special referee." It was great. So his very first fight that he had was against Jerome Bennett. Jerome Bennett was a master sergeant in the Air Force stationed at Kelly Airport.